Well, thank you for joining us on this Tuesday morning. And we, as we always are, we are joined by Edwin Eisendrath. He's the former CEO of the Chicago Sun-Times. He hosts his own program on Chicago radio, and we always like to talk about the headlines. I'm Susan Demas, the editor of Lincoln Square, and we have not run out of topics to talk about yet since we have been doing this, and I don't expect that we will this week. It seems like Trump was really going through it over the weekend with any number of distractions from, trying to order the NFL to rename the Washington Commanders to that disgusting video he posted of Barack Obama being arrested. I know that's something that caught your eye, Edwin. So why don't we just start there?
Okay, so Donald Trump's in trouble. He had the worst week he's had yet politically. People are furious with him in his own party. People are furious with him in MAGA, and Democrats seem to have found some of their footing. Um,
Right. And
it-
and this is over, Trump's broken promise over the Epstein files.
I think it's a lot of things. I think the Epstein one is the latest, the last.
Yes.
I think people are beginning to see that the bill they passed isn't doing them any good, right? And now this Epstein stuff is right in the heart of their. And what Um, so he posts this video, this sickening video of the two of them, he and Barack in the Oval Office, and then some CGI of Barack being wrestled to the ground and arrested and pulled away under the headline, um, "No one is above the law." This is the old. This he seems to think his most bigoted base. Uh,
Mhm.
will say it doesn't matter if this law that he just passed is bad for me. As long as it's worse for black people, I'm okay. And that is not what we want from an American president. It's not what we want from our neighbors and friends. It's sort of beneath our contempt. But there he is, beneath contempt. Susan, this week, they tasked 1,000 government officials, 1,000 people to go scrub files for Donald Trump's name in the Epstein files, right?
What does that tell us?
It tells us that he's scared to death, right? And then he orders them to, I don't know how many people were tagged to go release the couple 100,000 pages of files on Dr. King, right? So
Right.
they can do this if they
Which
want.
which Dr. King's family did not want them to do. They once again, Donald Trump does not care about anybody else's wishes but his own.
That's right. So, but they are able to do that if they
Mhm.
want. And now we have Todd Blanche, the deputy AG, saying, "Well, I have to meet with." I don't know how to pronounce this woman's name, Ghislaine Maxwell.
Mhm.
You know, for what? I mean, he didn't want to meet with her when they declared that the case is over. So now he wants to meet with her what to negotiate what she says in order to get a pardon. I mean, you know, this scandal is eating them alive, and he'll do anything. None of it good for us. None of it. I mean, while they're spending their energy protecting the king, the slaughter in Ukraine is as brutal as ever. Russia's bombing Kiev. The
Right, because, Putin knows that, Trump will never stand up and do the right thing, and he's a pushover.
as did Bibi Netanyahu, and over in Gaza, children are getting shot and they are starving to death. And Donald Trump said there'd be peace on day one.
Mhm.
What he meant was he would start getting his peace on day one. You
Excellent,
it,
yes.
it,
And dictators around the globe realized we are open for business. The United States is not going to be a check on our aggression and our brutality, and we can do whatever we want.
yeah. I mean, there's never been a worse president. There's never been a president who's cared less about the American people. There's never been a Congress that has passed such hostile laws that hurt Americans this much. This party is corrupt and dangerous, which brings me to my party, the Democrats. I'm not. There are a lot of candidates out there who are trying to raise their stock by saying Democrats are fools. And I have no patience for it. Whether it's Andrew Cuomo in New York saying, I'm moving to Florida because New York is going to be dead if I don't win. he should go live in Ron DeSantis's Florida, right? Or James
Good
Carville, that's
good luck with the housing market bottoming out there, which is a story
right.
that's very much under the radar.
Well, we'll talk. Let's get to housing. You're absolutely right. That's important. Um, but James Carville did it too. Saying
Hmm.
parties at civil war. The party's not at civil war. What we disagree about some things,
Hmm.
absolutely. But I've been out at all these rallies, and people who disagree about things are standing shoulder to shoulder,
Right,
right? As we do, we Americans, when things get tough. We don't ask, do you really, feel like we should go after that trans kid over there? Or should we that's not the issue today. The issue is like, how are we going to save our country? Let's stand shoulder to shoulder and do it.
right.
Right. And you have Rahm doing the same thing going on
Rahm Emanuel.
Megyn
Yeah,
Kelly's show to like say, I'm going to lose my Democrat card because he wants to separate himself from a brand that's troubled. If they cared about it, you fix the brand. And how do you do it? You offer some suggestions. And I got a
right.
few. If they want to ask me, I got plenty that I'd love to see us do.
And why don't we go ahead and start there? I know we just covered a lot of ground, but I mean, let's talk about solutions. What should the Democrats be doing right now?
Well, for one, this bill that Congress passed needs to be undone, right? And one of the biggest problems with this bill is it is a um, uh, oligarch creating bill. It is a reward for the billionaires in the country.
Hmm.
So the richest people in the country declared class war on the rest of us. You know
Yes.
what? I accept. So if we take over, let's take the marginal tax rate to 40%. Let's just
Let's go back to the Eisenhower days and see how
let
people like it at 90.
we it surely should go up. And
Yeah.
inheritance tax, pick a number. It could be 10 million you could give your kids. It could be 15 million. It isn't a billion. Pick a number. Let's have an inheritance tax in America
Yeah.
and create,
And
right?
honestly, so much of the ills of this country, I think, can be traced back to the fact that, there's no incentive now for the uber wealthy to give their wealth away. If they do that, like, Jeff Bezos's ex-wife, who's far more of a humanitarian than he will ever be, she's mocked for that, and she's considered a sucker because you don't have the same tax benefits for doing that. And so you have a bunch of billionaires and their children lying around and they want to be the masters of the universe instead of building hospitals, building up our infrastructure, investing in our people. There are no more. There's not an Elon Musk wing of any university. I mean, set aside the fact that we probably wouldn't want one, but there's no desire to do that because they have no buy-in for community, for our society, for this country. It's just all about amassing more and more wealth and power.
Well, so right. And they passed this law which declared war on us. So, the war came. We accept it. We're going to fight back. So let's fight back, raise those marginal tax rates, put in an inheritance tax. Let's just start using the wealth that gets created by the hardworking people of America and by the structure of our laws that make it possible to benefit Americans. So that's one. We need to improve healthcare again because they just dismantled it. They're just going to put 15 million people cancel their insurance. That's going to close hospitals. We can get it back, reinvest in education, reinvest in scientific research, double down on climate change, end forever the subsidies to oil and gas. I mean, all these old industries
Right.
that have really declared war on us and got this Congress to go along with them, we accept.
Yeah,
We'll take this war to you. And that's what Democrats should do. Not go on press
absolutely.
conference and say, I'm not that kind of Democrat. I'm walking away from the Democratic Party, or go on press conferences and say, Democrats really have to start talking about what we should do. Okay, start talking about it. I'm talking about it. It's not that hard.
Yeah. And this budget bill takes us backwards. There's nothing forward looking about this bill. getting rid of green technology that, believe me, there are massive corporations that have invested in this, not of the goodness of their own hearts, but because there's plenty of money and jobs in that. And just because of stupid ideology and an allegiance to, the oil and gas industry, we're killing an industry and we're ceding it to countries like China. We are going to fall so far behind in, solar technology. And, we made so much progress in terms of building our infrastructure for, lithium ion batteries here, especially in the Midwest where you and I are from, and where, a lot of the manufacturing has been hollowed out, and we need these jobs. And this bill does nothing for that. At the same time, they're yanking away your health care. And no, it's not just if, you're poor and undeserving, which is basically the line that Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, and Donald Trump are pushing on us. This affects all of us. If you are in the private marketplace, I don't think any of us are going to want to see what our rates are going to look like come October when we see what 2026 rates are. All of us who use hospitals, and God forbid, all of us have to at some point. Suddenly your local hospital may not be there because they can't afford to keep their doors open. I mean, this is setting up our entire healthcare system for collapse. This is not waste, fraud, and abuse. This is a huge attack on one of the very infrastructures of this country. And frankly, in so many small cities across the country, your local hospital is your largest employer. We have an aging population. This is just a disaster that's coming on so many levels. And these are people who do not care about it. And so when you have Democrats like James Carville or Andrew Cuomo, who are just looking for cred in this new, right wing, ever expanding media ecosphere. So, Megyn Kelly can pat them on the head and say, "Good job. You're a good Democrat. You understand that they're the problem." We we don't
Yeah,
have we don't have time for that.
it's
We don't have a
absolutely
use
crazy.
for it.
That's exactly right. Instead of following and saying, maybe there's a niche for me if I follow the country as it goes the wrong direction, stand and say, that's the wrong direction. Here's a better path,
Right.
right? A better path. I mean, again, they declared war. I accept. Let's take it to them. But also, I mean, um, what's what's Trump doing? He's trying in advance of the next election so that we can't win, right? He's trying to undermine civil society. So
Yes.
they had this Harvard case yesterday, and the judge hasn't ruled, but already Trump is trashing the judge, right?
It's the same playbook during,
Same
his
playbook.
trial, last year where he kept going after the judge, after her daughter. It's just intimidation. And this is what thugs do. This is what authoritarians do.
And they ignore the rulings, which is what this administration has systematically done. It is um, the so when we take power, the rule of law has to matter again, and there have to be consequences. And Donald Trump may be immune because the court has made him immune, but his henchmen aren't.
No.
His and they're going to have to go to jail. And by the way, we are going to have Supreme Court reform because 94% of the jurists who've seen Trump cases have used very strong language to saying the Trump administration is breaking the law, systematically breaking the law, systematically ignoring the courts. And the Supreme Court then, overturns a bunch of that. They are so out of step with American jurisprudence. They need reform. They're dangerous. So
Right.
the things Democrats can do, not talk about, we should talk about it. They are things we can do. And let's take back our government and make it work for us,
Right.
and protect our workers and make their benefit part of what we fight for.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
And that'll lower the cost of housing. Let's build a whole lot more housing in America. And, all of this is good for the environment. Oh, on the environment, you raised that before. A very smart guy named Dave Roberts told me, he enlightened me about this. China doesn't have any oil and gas. Just naturally, they don't.
mm-hmm.
Can't make money in the oil and gas world. So that's why they're so focused on wind and solar and these other techs. But once they get there, then there's no place because it's cheaper than oil and gas. Then there's no place for the oil industry to expand anymore.
Hmm.
That if they can't grow forever, they're going to stop getting investors and all of that. It's in that world where we're at the very end of the dominance of oil and gas
Right.
that Donald Trump has bet America's future on the financial power of oil and gas.
Right. On a
It,
dinosaur industry,
and
literally built by dinosaurs.
exactly right. So not just bad for the environment, but incredibly bad for America's economic future.
Yes. And we should say that because we are coming rapidly, whether anyone wants it or not, to the end of the dominance of fossil fuels, that's why you see the desperation to drill in the Arctic, to drill in our public lands, because there's not much left. There aren't very many places left to go. And so, as usual, there's just massive destruction, because you can't get those lands back. And climate change is already um, just outpacing all of our estimates year after year. And so we literally can't afford this for so many reasons. But it's a smash and grab mentality that,
And
Donald Trump and these oligarchs have. It's I don't care what kind of world we are leaving for our children. My children are in gated communities. They'll be fine with our billions of dollars that I don't have to pay any taxes on anymore. But the world for the rest of you, let it burn. And that is not what this country is built on. And this is not what we can stand for. And I think that the thing that Donald Trump and his wealthy friends always count on is that there will be weakness from people on the left, from liberals, from Democrats. You always want to play by the rules, like with this gerrymandering scheme that they're trying to push in red states like Texas. Oh, well, certainly, they won't be doing that in California where there's an independent redistricting commission. They want to be fair. They want to play by the rules so that we can break all the rules and they'll still play by the old rules. And, at the point we're at with our country, I think that Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, has it exactly right. Fuck your rules.
well,
We're
if
trying to save our country.
I want to tell you something. I hope they further gerrymander Texas because they did their best the last time. They created the perfect districts for them. Now, if they get greedy and have to push them further, that means that in the districts they change, they're not going to be as solidly red.
Mm,
They're
hmm.
going to have a little, and I think we'll flip some of those. So
That's
some of
that's an
those,
excellent point, right?
right?
Because what we've seen, like if we can build to a wave year, it's those districts that are marginal and not just marginal by 5 points, by 10 points. Those are
Right.
the ones that we can flip.
Yeah. So you're going to hear in Texas incumbents in those safe districts say, "Whoa, now we want to gerrymander more, but do that to Bill over there. Don't do it to me,"
Right.
because they're worried about running in a district that's not already 20% lead baked in. Because people are mad at these guys, and they should
Yes.
they should be. Oh, and you raised housing before in the market, and you raise it in
Hmm.
Florida. Which brings us to climate change. You can't get insurance anymore,
Right.
right? So there are all kinds of reasons and that's a climate problem. It's a flood problem. These are big challenges the country faces, the world faces, and
Yes.
serious people. And instead, we have this clown show where instead of working on anything that matters to us, they're spending their whole government running around looking at Epstein files for Donald Trump's name. They even
Right.
they even produced training videos for the people in the government about what to do if you see Donald Trump's name in in an Epstein file. This is what they care about. Not the
Yes.
slaughter in Ukraine, not the slaughter in Gaza, not peace anywhere in the world, not American leadership, and certainly not American workers and American people who just got uh, screwed by this bill.
Right. And there are so many warning signs for our economy right now, which, we should know was the number one issue of the 2024 election. And a lot of people voted for Donald Trump, not because, they were huge fans, but they wanted change. We have a two-party system, so, they picked essentially the challenger.
Mhm.
And, he was going to get rid of inflation on day one. That was a huge promise. Of course, that was ridiculous campaign rhetoric, but nonetheless, he's been in office for 6 months. Inflation is on the rise. We're looking at worse inflation at this time, than there was during the Biden presidency, which, everyone agreed was the kiss of death for him.
And this
Um,
one is directly attributable to his tariff.
Right.
So we
His tariffs, this bill that we know is inflationary because, our energy costs, our healthcare costs are just going to spiral out of control for it. And the market is aware of that. You look at all the warning signs that we were hitting back before the Great Recession of 2008. Uh, People are missing auto payments. People cannot get mortgages at a decent rate and they're defaulting on their loans. We know what's coming. We know, we probably have to wait a few more quarters to actually see, yes, we're in recession, but realistically, that's where we're at now.
Well, and the government will start to lie to us about whether we're in recession. We can't trust Donald Trump to be honest with us. We can't trust, we already have seen examples of Tulsi Gabbard, changing reports before
Yes.
in public. This is the most dangerous. I mean, we rely on the government for data, and now we can't trust that data because uh, liars are so dangerous. And you think about life, they just challenge your sense of reality. It really matters that you keep your word, that you tell the truth. And people who lie just about everything are they just so undermine everything that matters. And now we put those guys in charge.
Right.
It's falling beyond belief. We just have to fix it. I mean, America is poorer. We are weaker. We are less healthy. We are less respected. And they've only been here for 6 months,
Right.
right?
It's
Joe Biden gave them, he had a lot of things that were problematic, but he handed them the world's strongest economy,
right.
right? And the fastest recovery ever. And these guys,
After the pandemic.
they just put the brakes on it and pocketed everything they can.
Absolutely. One thing that I go back to a lot is I remember during Obama's presidency, Jack Welch, the former, GE CEO, he complained that the Obama administration was fixing the economic numbers. Oh, those Obama guys, you can't trust them. And, now we're in a situation where that really is what our government is doing. Everything is projection with the right. Everything that they think, oh, there's this massive deep state pedophile ring run by liberals. Now we're seeing whose name is being taken out of the Epstein files. Everything is projection. And, when the economy isn't going well, it's let's put up, let's get our friends in right-wing media to put up a bunch of TikTok, videos, Betty Johnson and Tim Pool to say, no, the economy is great. And we'll put out false numbers and let's see how many people we can fool. But the rubber will hit the road because when you have to declare bankruptcy because of medical bills, again, which Obamacare took care of that problem and now it's back. When you're losing your house, when you're losing your car, at some point, it doesn't matter what kind of funny numbers the Trump administration is putting up. You know what it's doing to you and all of your neighbors. And so, it's up to us to just keep telling the truth and to call bullshit when we see it.
Well, we have to do that. When it happened in 2008 during that crisis, we did not handle it well, Democrats.
No.
No banker went to jail, not one.
And that is
Right?
a huge that I'm so glad you brought that up because I
And
think that has haunted us till today.
today, and it should haunt us. And in the Great Depression, when people were hurting, we had grapes of wrath. We talked about the lives of Americans. What did we have after 2008? After ordinary Americans were screwed over by the banking system, we
Mm.
had billionaire saves the world. That's what we gave everybody.
Yeah.
And you know what? People are like, what about me? What about my life?
Yeah. And I want to ask you because you're from Chicago. I don't know how much contact you've had with kind of the Obama world in Chicago, but like I think because he was elected in 2008 with so much hope and promise, people really expected, that some of the crooks that brought our economy to its knees would be put in jail, and that was such a disappointment for him, and to some extent even overshadowed populist, accomplishments that he had with Obamacare because, of course, as we know, new legislation is scary. A lot of it did not go into effect right away, and it took threats from Trump to really make the program popular. But I'm kind of curious about your perspective as a Chicagoan. Did you think that this was something he would take on? And what are the lessons that we can learn about how to build a better party, as we're going forward?
Well, I don't know how to answer that because I cannot begin to imagine the pressures on the first black president in America. I can't
Yes.
begin to imagine, when the day he's elected, Mitch McConnell says, our number one job is to make sure the president of the United States is a failure, right?
Yes.
Positively treasonous.
Which is, yeah, un-American,
In right? So it's hard for me to imagine the uh, narrow window he had to in which to
Mhm,
to get done what he got done. So would I have liked those guys to go to jail? You bet. Would I like to?
mhm.
But I mean, there are a lot of things I would have liked, but I don't know that he had the freedom to do them.
That's a fair point. But, it's very clear, going back to how we started this discussion with that, ad that the AI, video that Trump dropped over the weekend. Nobody has been more obsessed with Barack Obama than Donald Trump. I mean, that
Because he's a
is,
flat out racist, and
he
nothing
is,
offended him more than that the president of the United States isn't a white man. And you know
yes.
what? I'm a white man. I'm all for white men, but that way, but we live in a country that is very diverse, and we all of us are here, and all of us get a fair shot. At least that's how I see it, but not how Trump sees it. Right?
No.
There are good people on very good people on both sides. And David Duke, oh, he's one of my great advisors. I mean, come on. I mean, there's always been that strand in America, but we have better angels and we overcome them,
Right.
right? And but and what did Lincoln say? One side would make war, the other would accept it. Well, they're making war, and you know what? We accept it. Thankfully, it's not yet, and I hope it never gets to be, a war with guns, but it's a war with laws. It's a war with our institutions, undermining our universities and our journalists and our healthcare. That it's time to fight back.
It is. It definitely is. And I know that the next big protests are scheduled for August 2nd. I know you were out there in Chicago for the No Kings
Mhm.
protest back in June. August is look, it's a challenge because, especially where we live in the Midwest, August is our last shot at summer before, we have our 6 months of winter or whatever, but the time to get out is now. The weather this summer has been glorious. Getting together, whether it's, for pride parades or for No Kings, there's just been such a feeling of community and camaraderie out there, and so I hope that people will get out for that because I think that the more that we can send the message to Donald Trump that we are willing to stand up and fight back, we will not be cowed. I mean, that's what we have to do.
Hey, and let me give a shout out to the training that Indivisible is doing. You should all sign up for it if you're listening. They're training people in strategic nonviolent non-cooperation because
Mhm.
instead of just waiting for the election, and we have to organize and we have to win the elections, but we have to stop them from undermining our journalists, stop them from undermining our schools, stop them from corrupting our law firms. All of this is important that we do in the interim.
Absolutely. I will drop the link in our write-up of the show so that you can go and be part of that training because it's very useful. I mean, back in the 60s, this is, groups like SNCC and CORE, um, you know, it's not enough to resist. It's a matter of learning how to do this smartly, especially when um, there's nothing that Donald Trump and his minions would like than to have violent protests for them to put down. And
That's
so it's a there's a reason it's strategic nonviolence. It's not weakness. And there are great things that we can do to fight back. And I think that that's just so important for us to remember. There's still a fight to be won here. And anyway, I so appreciate you coming by again. I will look forward to our time next week at 11 Eastern on Tuesday, Edwin. And thanks to all of you for joining in as well.
Thanks, Susan.